My name is Sarah Mitchell, and after a particularly brutal family dinner where my sister told me I was too dependent on everyone else and needed to learn to be alone, I decided to prove her wrong. I went completely off-grid for 30 days. No phone, no internet, no contact with anyone. What I discovered when I came back changed everything I thought I knew about my family. While I was gone, thinking they were worried sick about me, they were actually telling everyone I had moved to California for a new job. They had created an entire fake story about my life, complete with social media posts from my accounts that I never wrote. When I walked back into my family's house after 30 days, the look of pure terror on their faces told me everything I needed to know. If you're watching this, hit that like button and subscribe, because this story gets absolutely wild. Drop in the comments where you're watching from. I want to know where my fellow digital detox survivors are. This is my story about how 30 days of silence revealed that my family had been lying to me about everything, and how I discovered the real reason they wanted me to disappear. Growing up in the Mitchell family meant living up to impossibly high standards. My parents, David and Linda, were both successful professionals. Dad was a financial advisor with his own firm. Mom was a real estate agent who consistently ranked in the top 5% of her company. They had built their reputation in our small Connecticut town around being the perfect family. My older sister Jessica was their pride and joy. She had graduated summa cum laude from Yale, landed a prestigious job at a consulting firm in Manhattan, and was engaged to a lawyer from a prominent local family. She was everything my parents had dreamed of: successful, polished, and socially connected. My younger brother Ryan was following the same path. He was a senior at an elite prep school, had already been accepted to several Ivy League universities, and was being recruited by college tennis teams. The golden boy who never caused problems or disappointed anyone. Then there was me. At 24. I was the family outlier. I had graduated from a state university with a degree in social work, worked for a nonprofit that helped homeless families, and lived in a small apartment downtown instead of pursuing the corporate career my parents expected. I wasn't unsuccessful, but I wasn't living up to the Mitchell family standard of achievement. Sarah always has to be different, my mother would sigh when neighbors asked about my career. We raised her with the same values as the other children, but she chose a more unconventional path. Social work is noble, my father would add diplomatically, but it's not exactly building a future. The criticism was constant but subtle. During family gatherings, conversations focused on Jessica's latest promotion or Ryan's academic achievements, while my work helping families find housing was treated as a phase I would eventually outgrow. When are you going to get serious? About your career? Jessica would ask during family dinners. You can't save the world on a nonprofit salary. I felt like I was constantly defending my life choices to people who should have been supporting me. The final straw came during our monthly family dinner in March. I had just finished telling everyone about a successful program we had launched at work that helped 15 families find permanent housing when Jessica interrupted me. That's nice, Sarah, but when are you going to do something that actually matters? She said, not looking up from her phone. I mean, you're 24 and still living like a college student. Helping families matters, I replied, trying to keep my voice calm. What matters is building financial security. My father interjected. You can't help anyone if you can't help yourself first. The problem is that you're too dependent on everyone else, Jessica continued. You call mom and dad constantly. You need validation for every decision, and you can't seem to function independently. That's not true, I protested, but even as I said it, I realized she might have a point. I did call my parents frequently, and I did value their opinions on most decisions. You need to learn to be alone, Jessica said firmly. Maybe if you spent some time figuring out who you are without constantly seeking approval from the family, you might actually accomplish something meaningful. The words stung because there was truth in them, but also because of how dismissively she said them. My work helping families wasn't meaningless, but I had been relying heavily on my family's emotional support. Fine, I said, standing up from The dinner table, you want me to learn to be alone? I'll show you exactly how independent I can be. Sarah, don't be dramatic, my mother said, but I was already grabbing my purse. I'm taking a break from all of you, I announced. No calls, no text, no contact. Let's see how independent I really am. I walked out of that house with no plan, other than proving Jessica wrong. But I had no idea what I was about to discover. The next morning, I made a decision that would change my life. I was going to disappear completely for 30 days. No phone, no internet, no social media, no contact with anyone. I wanted to prove to myself and my family that I could be completely independent. I drove 3 hours north to a small cabin I found on Craigslist in rural Vermont. The owner was an elderly man who rented it out to people seeking digital detoxes and meditation retreats. No Wi-Fi, no cell service, just basic electricity and running water. Most people last about a week, he told me as he handed over the keys. Are you sure you want to pay for the full month up front? I'm sure, I said, turning off my phone and handing it to him for safekeeping. The first week was brutal. I had no idea how addicted I was to constant connectivity until it was gone. I found myself reaching for my phone dozens of times a day, only to remember it wasn't there. I missed my family, missed my job, missed the constant stream of information and validation I was used to. But gradually, something shifted. Without the constant noise of social media and text messages, I started to think more clearly about my life. I read books I had been meaning to read for years, wrote in a journal every day, and spent hours hiking in the woods around the cabin dot by the second week. I was sleeping better than I had in years. I was eating regular meals instead of grabbing fast food between work and family obligations. I was actually enjoying the silence and solitude that Jessica had said I needed to learn to handle. The third week brought real clarity. Without my family's constant opinions and expectations, I started to see my work differently. I wasn't helping families because I needed validation. I was doing it because it genuinely mattered to me. The families I worked with weren't charity cases. They were people facing temporary setbacks who needed practical support. By the fourth week, I felt like a completely different person. I was confident, centered, and clear about my values in a way I had never been before. Jessica had been right about one thing: I did need to learn to be alone. But she had been wrong about everything else. On day 30, I drove back to Connecticut feeling proud of what I had accomplished. I had proven to myself that I could be completely independent, and I was excited to share my experience with my family. I expected them to be relieved to see me, maybe even impressed by my month-long digital detox. I pulled into my parents' driveway at around 2 p.m. on a Saturday, expecting to surprise them. But when I walked through the front door using my spare key, the reaction I got was not relief or happiness. It was pure terror that my mother was in the kitchen with Jessica, and when they saw me, both of their faces went completely white. They looked like they had seen a ghost. Sarah? My mother stammered. What are you doing here? I live here, I said, confused by their reaction. Well, I live nearby. I've been gone for 30 days, remember? The digital detox? Jessica and my mother exchanged a look that I couldn't interpret, but it was clearly panic. We thought you were in California, Jessica said slowly. California? Why would you think that? Because ... Because that's what we told everyone, my mother said quietly. What do you mean that's what you told everyone? That's when my father walked into the kitchen and saw me. His reaction was even worse than theirs. He actually dropped the coffee mug he was holding. Sarah, we need to talk, he said, his voice shaking. Dad, what's going on? Why does everyone look like they've seen a ghost? Because we told everyone you moved to California for a new job, Jessica said finally. We've been posting on your social media accounts for a month, creating an entire fake life for you. The room started spinning. You did what? What my family revealed over the next hour was more shocking than anything I could have imagined. When I had stormed out of that family dinner and disappeared, they had panicked, not because they were worried about my safety, but because they were worried about their reputation. You have to understand, my mother explained. When you didn't come home that night and then days went by without any contact, people started asking questions. What kind of questions? Neighbors, friends, people at church, my father said. They wanted to know where you were, why you weren't at family events, why you seemed to have just disappeared. So you told them I moved to California? It seemed like the easiest explanation, Jessica said defensively. You said you got a great job offer with a nonprofit in San Francisco and decided to make a fresh start. But that's not what happened. We know that now, my mother said. But at the time, we thought you might have actually left town. You were so angry when you stormed out, and when you didn't answer your phone ... I told you I was taking a break from contact. We thought you meant for a few days, my father said. Not a month, but the story got worse. Not only had they told people I moved to California, they had been actively maintaining the lie. Jessica showed me my Instagram account, which had been posting regularly for the past month with photos of San Francisco, captions about my new life, and updates about my amazing job. Where did you get these photos? I asked, scrolling through. Posts that looked like they were from my account, but that I had never made. Stock photos, mostly, Jessica admitted. Some from travel websites. I'm pretty good at making them look authentic. You've been impersonating me on social media for a month. We were protecting the family reputation, my father said firmly. When one of the Mitchell children just disappears without explanation, it reflects poorly on all of us. So you created a fake life for me instead of just telling people I was. Taking some time to myself? Taking time to yourself sounds like a mental health crisis, my mother said. Moving to California for a great opportunity sounds like success. As the conversation continued, I realized the fake California story was just the tip of the iceberg. My family had been managing my image for years without me realizing it. How long have you been controlling my social media? I asked Jessica. I've been helping you curate your posts for about 2 years, she admitted. You never posted the right things, so I started editing your captions and sometimes posting for you. Without telling me, you gave me your passwords when you were having trouble with your account that one time, she said defensively. I was just helping you present yourself better. I grabbed my phone and started scrolling through my social media accounts. Post after post that I didn't remember making, captions that didn't sound like my voice, photos that had been edited to make my life look more glamorous than it actually was. This isn't my life, I said, staring at the screen. This isn't who I am. It's who you could be, my father said. We were helping you build a better image, but it's not real. Social media isn't supposed to be real, Jessica said. It's supposed to be aspirational. The more we talked, the more I realized that my family had been subtly controlling my narrative for years. They had been editing my social media, managing what information they shared about me with friends and neighbors, and presenting a version of my life that fit their standards rather than reflecting my reality. What about my job? I asked. What? Have you been telling people about my work? We've been saying you're in nonprofit management, my mother said. It sounds more professional than social work. In my apartment, we tell people you're saving money to buy a house, my father said, which is what you should be doing. Every aspect of my life had been repackaged and presented according to their vision of what I should be, rather than who I actually was. You realize how messed up this is? I asked. We were protecting you, my mother said, and protecting the family reputation. From what? From the truth about who I am? From the perception that you're not living up to your potential, Jessica said bluntly. The 30 days I spent alone had given me clarity about who I was and what I wanted from my life. But the conversation with my family gave me clarity about something else. They had never actually seen or accepted the real me. I need you to understand something, I said, looking at each of them. I'm not moving to California. I'm not changing careers. I'm not going to pretend to be someone I'm not to make you look good, Sarah, be reasonable, my father started. I am being reasonable, I interrupted. What's unreasonable is creating fake social media posts about your daughter's life, because you're embarrassed by who she actually is. We're not embarrassed, my mother protested. Then why did you lie about everything? The silence that followed answered my question. Over the next few weeks, I had to rebuild my entire relationship with my family based on honesty rather than their curated version of my life. I changed all my social media passwords, deleted the fake posts Jessica had made, and posted a simple update explaining that I had taken a month-long digital detox and was back to my normal life. The response from friends and acquaintances was overwhelmingly positive. People were impressed by my digital detox and curious about my experience. Several friends said they had been inspired to try their own technology breaks. I had no idea you moved to California, one friend commented. I'm glad you're still here. Wait, you didn't move? Another friend asked. Your family told everyone you got a job in San Francisco. I had to have dozens of conversations explaining that I'd never moved, never changed jobs, and never posted any of the content that had appeared on my accounts during my absence. The most important change was in how I saw myself. The month alone had shown me that I didn't need my family's approval to feel confident about my choices. My work helping families was meaningful, my lifestyle was sustainable, and my values were solid. I'm proud of who I am, I told my family during our first honest conversation after my return. I'm proud of my job, my apartment, my life. If that doesn't fit your image of success, that's your problem, not mine. We just want what's best for you, my mother said. What's best for me is being accepted for who I actually am, not who you think I should be. It took several months, but gradually my family learned to accept the real me rather than the version they had been trying to create. Jessica apologized for managing my social media without permission. My parents stopped editing my career description. When talking to neighbors, the experience taught me that sometimes the people who love you most can also be the ones who see you least clearly. Sometimes taking time away from everyone, even family, is necessary to figure out who you really are underneath their expectations. If you've ever felt like your family doesn't really see the real you, know that their perception doesn't define your worth. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is set boundaries that protect your authentic self. Leave in the comments if you've ever taken a digital detox or discovered that people in your life were misrepresenting you. And if this story inspired you to value authenticity over image management, hit that like button and subscribe. Remember, you don't need anyone's permission to be yourself, even from the people who think they know what's best for you.